To be a promoter in the professional wrestling industry, you have to be a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. Unfortunately, the circumstances leading into a huge event I was presenting at the historic Fort William Gardens in Thunder Bay, Ontario, almost led to me having a nervous breakdown. The following story is an explanation of the situation by my old rival, Canadian heavyweight champion, Jeremy Prophet. His views do not necessarily reflect my views. However, I agree that he tells the story in a highly entertaining manner. Please enjoy.
That's really something. I remember that I was all excited about doing the Thunder Bay show. I didn't even know if I was going to be on it or not. And then Devon confirmed that I would be there. And when I had asked him, who's bringing the ring, he told me it was a guy named Dan Gervais. He wrestled as Wild Dangerous Dan. And I was already kind of suspicious. I'm like, I've heard a lot of bad things about him. I don't think he's the most reliable. I was unsure about this guy, about Dan Gervais, but Hannibal had assured me that, he went to supper with this guy, he had talked with him, spent a lot of time with him over the past few days, and that everything was supposed to be fine. But I still had my suspicions. And then, I don't know if it was a few days later, but we were around, a couple days before the show, and we're still looking for a ring because this guy all of a sudden said, one of the posts, one of my ring posts, I can't find it. Now, I don't know how you can go and lose a ring post. I mean, you put on a show, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put 2 or 3 of my ring posts in the car and just leave the other big 100-pound ring post lying around somewhere, but that was his excuse. He lost the ring post, So we had to find another ring. So then Hannibal had called me and he said, I found a ring. There's this other guy who's gonna bring one, named Doug Felton. He was a promoter in Ontario. I wrestled for him a couple of times, did some shows for him. Didn't really have any problems with him. Seemed like kind of a weird, kind of fruity guy, but I didn't really have any problems with him. And the only thing was that everyone always told me, this guy is not reliable, you might end up going to a show and he won't pay you. So I told Hannibal, I'm like, this guy can't be trusted. I just don't think this guy is the right person to trust. I think this guy's probably just gonna get up the day of the show and be like, Thunder Bay is a long way. I don't feel like driving 20 hours with my ring and all that. I don't feel like doing it. I said, that's probably what the guy's gonna do to me. So as we're leaving, we're all in the van and we're going up actually we're in a car, we're going up the next day, which is the day before, it might have been 2 days before. Actually, it was the day before that we were gonna arrive there. And as we're going up, I'm like, man, we need to find another ring. We need to contact someone else because this whole situation is, it's too risky. For a show with that big of a budget, with that much talent on it, it's just too risky to not have a ring. It's like, we're gonna show up there's gonna be no ring. You're gonna have an arena full of people. You're gonna have, 5,000 people in an arena and no ring. And without the ring, there's no show. It's like, you go see a play and there's no stage. How are they gonna do it? And so with that, sure enough, like I said, as we're driving, Hannibal calls him up a bunch of times, there's no answer. Texts and everything, no answer. And I'm telling him, this is not good, and we're getting paranoid, and we're trying to figure out solutions.
So I don't know where this asshole is. I've been driving all night, I have not slept. We have to wrestle in 5 or 6 hours. And this guy is nowhere to be found. What do you make of it, Jeff?
And then finally, as we're driving from night to day, because it's about a 20-hour drive we did, the next morning, we finally get a message from him, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to make it I really forget the reason. I don't know, it's too far, or it's inconvenient. See, I don't know what excuse the guy made, but it was something like that, and now we have no ring. So we arrive in Thunder Bay, and we have no ring. So Lanny Poffo had the idea that maybe we could do it on gym mats. So now we're looking at doing this show, the biggest show to happen in Thunder Bay, probably the biggest show in Canada that year by an independent promotion, on gym mats. And just the thought of that is like, it's gonna make the company look bad, it's gonna make all of us look bad. I'm sure a lot of the guys wouldn't mind it, they just wanna get their money and stuff, but still, it's like, we've been let down by these people. So then I get the idea, I'm like, maybe we could look around town, maybe we could find a boxing ring, or anything that resembles a ring that we could perform in. And Hannibal thought it was a good idea. And so we start making calls, we start going around town, and Thunder Bay is like, it's a nice little town, but it's like really hidden away. We had to drive through these like forests to get there. We saw grizzly bears, we almost hit a moose. Like there's all kinds of things. And I'm like, you know, maybe, just maybe there'll be a boxing ring around somewhere. So finally we ended up finding a place. We ended up calling them, making them an offer, and then again, we had to wait. And at that point, I remember we were just so tired and so hungry. We'd been up that whole time, like none of us had had any sleep. And you know, me and Hannibal, we're going out to eat that night. And I remember we're just walking down the street, and then finally he gets a call saying, okay, they've accepted the offer, the boxing, whatever, the athletic club in Thunder Bay, they're gonna give us the ring. They're gonna give us the ring. They accepted our offer. And so that was one thing that finally came through. So we at least we're gonna have a ring for the show.
It is June 18th, day of the big show, and there's our ring. It's actually a boxing ring because we couldn't find a wrestling ring. Well, we did find them, but both our suppliers decided to bail on us. So that's what it is. It's a boxing ring, but hey, what the hell?
We had to go get it. We had to go transport it. We don't have a ring truck or anything. We had to get this makeshift kind of little hatchback kind of thing and fit the pieces in and go on about 4 or 5 trips to get it to the arena and bring it back. We had to do all the setup. So the show went on. We had the ring, except for the fact that this was a boxing ring. This was a very, very stiff boxing ring. Now the main difference between a boxing ring and a wrestling ring is a boxing ring has no padding. So you're pretty much falling on metal bars and some thick wood planks. And it's like, that's probably why most boxers get knocked out when they hit the mat. You see their head go back, because that thing was unforgiving. That thing was just all impact and no give. And as seen through the whole night, I mean, we had a night where there was probably maybe 4 bumps taken in the first match. Then they had Lanny wrestle Brutus. And as Lanny put it, I did not even so much as take a knee. Fall to 1 knee in that ring. That ended on a roll-up. And then you had me wrestling Coco Beware. That was that was special. You know, Coco's an interesting guy. You know, he's a legend, Coco Beware. He had a little bit of difficulty with following orders in that match, you know, and there were certain things he didn't want to do because he's a legend, brother. It was like, no, brother, you know, I'm a legend. They put me in the Hall of Fame. I gotta do what's best for me, you know. I mean, I'm in business for me. I'm not here to help anybody. And then we go and we do that match. It was a pretty good match, you know. I did my best to give him the kind of match he deserved, to make it nice and competitive, and you know, to make sure that the people got their money's worth. They got to see Coco Beware work, you know, and maybe kind of like step back into a time machine and become the Coco Beware that actually, you know, that actually was entertaining, moderately entertaining, but entertaining nonetheless, you know, back in his day. So I did that, probably the only match that had, like, you know, anything athletic in it, because I went up to the top and hit a moonsault onto him. He tried to avoid it, but, you know, he's old and slow, so, you know, what can you expect? Nonetheless, we did that match in a boxing ring, and Coco, I know, was sore after it, and I was pretty banged up. It's definitely not like a wrestling ring, but the main thing with that show was we had a ring. Once that was all said and done now, this is the part I like, is that this was the time to get revenge on the guys who canceled out on us. This is what I like about Hannibal, is that he put together a great plan. And I kind of helped him out a little bit with it, but I can't take too much credit. I'm not going to take too much credit for that, because it was a great plan that he put together. We had an Abdullah the Butcher retirement show, last show in Ottawa. And this, to date, was the last time Abdullah would compete in Canada. So he wanted to, you know, get his revenge on these guys, because really they could have screwed up a show that, you know, that could have cost us tens of thousands of dollars. Well, it could have cost Hannibal tens of thousands of dollars. And we could have all been ruined by these guys who were lazy and selfish. So he books this guy, Dangerous Dan, and tells him, you know, you're going to get to wrestle Abdullah. It's going to be great for you. You know, it's you do all the hardcore, and he does it too. And you know, you're in there with me. It's like you're surrounded by good people, and it's going to be good exposure for you. It's going to be a great experience. And he really, like, you know, he kind of lures him into a false sense of security, much like he did with us with the ring. And then he gets this other guy, the Hickster, and this is a guy, you know, I had traveled with him and stuff, and I can tell you, this guy, he's the kind of guy who likes to be very two-faced. You know, he'll be nice to your face, and then, you know, he'll suddenly be back-talking you. And what I always found funny was he always talked about Devon, about Hannibal, and he was always like, you know, that guy, I was supposed to work with him on some show, I forget when, I think it was in Montreal for CWA, which was a Fed running up there. And he's like, yeah, I was supposed to work with him up there, but, you know, I think deep down inside he was scared of me. I think that, you know, he knew that I'm tougher than him, you know, my matches are better than his, I'm more hardcore, I'm not, you know, and I think he's scared of me, and if we were in the same ring, you know, he'd see that he's not in my league. And he's like, really, he doesn't know that Hannibal and I are friends and stuff, and he's really putting the boots to him. So then, you know, coming to this show in Ottawa, he's a big star in Ottawa. He has his own promotion that he books, and that he, you know, has himself featured in all the main bouts. And so Hannibal talked to him and said, look, you know, you could be featured now in my main event. You could be in my main event, working with a legend, working with Abdul the Butcher, working with me. We can do a great match. Put him into a great false sense of security. And this guy, going into this match, he's thinking, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to show him up, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Match time comes around. You got Hickster and Dangerous Dan against Hannibal and Abdullah the Butcher. And I made sure I got a great first-hand look at this. I came out from I don't usually come out from backstage to watch them. I came out from the backstage along with several of the other guys to watch this. And if you see the footage of that match, it's like, you know, you got the start of it with Hickster and Hannibal. And oh, and the referee also. The referee was another guy who deserved a bit of his comeuppance, because, you know, he was in the ring reffing that match drunk, and he had also stolen money from one of our guys, from one of the other guys who was on tour with us in Thunder Bay. First thing in that match is that Dangerous Dan reaches over and he hits Hannibal, and Hannibal tells the ref, hey ref, you hit me, ref stopped paying attention, and he slaps him, and I mean just slaps him, but he kind of didn't catch him flush, he caught him a little bit easy. But hard nonetheless. And then the next one, bam, it's as if he slapped him and just drove his face right to the ground. So the ref's down or whatever, and he picks him back up. He picks him back up and tells him, look, pay attention, you know, ref this match. Then he grabs Hickster, and he like, takes him and throws him on the ground, if I'm not mistaken, and puts him in this hold. And you see Hickster, his face is like turning all different kinds of colors, and I think he backed him into a corner and started giving him big shots, and you see him cowering away, and then finally sends him into his own corner. He's like, tag Dan. They go for like a test of strength in the match, and you see Hannibal does that with him, works him a bit, and then grabs him and gives him this judo throw, puts him on the ground, locks him in a hole, and you see Dan like saying like, okay, and you see him tapping out right at the start, like saying stop, and then that's when things start to break down. Then all hell breaks loose. There's fighting on the outside, fighting on the inside. Dan is on the outside. Hannibal grabs a chair, starts going to town and hits him in the arm with the chair. And you see Dan, like, who's supposed to be this big hardcore legend and all these things in Ottawa. You see him running away and like, stop. And he's hitting him in the arm. He's running away. Hickster, I don't know why, he was on the apron. He was kind of high on the ropes. Hannibal just reels back and nails him in the head with this chair shot, and he is down, and the crowd's going nuts. It was actually amazing. And Dan's running away. Abdullah kind of takes him out, and then Hannibal goes back in and gives this big powerbomb, this gut-wrench powerbomb to Hickster, and this guy's like 400 pounds, he's almost 500 pounds, a big blob of blubber, and Hannibal picks him up, drops him down, and that's the end of the match. And like the beating those guys took, it was great, and I liked hearing the comments from the fans who were all like, we have never seen those guys dominated like that. We've never seen like a match like that where these two guys were supposedly legends and monsters over there, seeing them have virtually zero offense in a match. And I think it was fitting because, look, you know, you want to play with people's lives, you want to play with people's money and their businesses and try to screw them over. It's like, you know, you give your word, you're going to do something, and there's big money like that involved and everything, and then you cancel out because you're lazy, because you want to make an excuse because you don't feel like doing it, because you wake up one morning and you don't feel the same. Well, look, you know, you made a commitment. That's something you gotta live up to.